Forget about Milan, forget about Milan, forget about Milan, forget about Milan. Yes, we've got to forget about Milan because the real business, the bread and butter, pardon the awful, very, very old-fashioned cliche, is finally back on Saturday. International break, goodbye, so long. And there's fucking another one coming up in like literally 4 weeks. But 2 weeks without Eddie Howe's mags. We are back. Some people are calling this maybe a must-win. I'm certainly not using that phrase. But I'll tell you what this is. This is a springboard into a very big week for Newcastle United. The Brentford match preview is coming up, Newcastle fans. So do us a favour. Make sure you stick around. Welcome back to Black White Banter, you lovely Newcastle fans. I hope you are happy that the international break is finally over. If you are new around here, Newcastle fans, before I get into the Brentford match preview, do us a favour, drop us a little likey loo. Doesn't take you any effort, but it goes a very long way to maybe getting this video in front of a couple more Newcastle fans or Brentford fans. Who knows? And whack that subscribe if you like my opinion by the end of this video. There is a match vlog coming for this one. And there's Milan shenanigans coming in the next 3 to 4 days as well. I am joined by a very special guest on this video, at the start of this video at least. Maggie, would you like to say anything about the Brentford match preview? No? She's a little bit camera shy. She's also a little bit pissed off that I'm leaving her to go to Milan. I've told her she just wouldn't. It's not really her. Couldn't really see her walking the cathedrals, taking a poo outside the San Siro. Not really her cup of tea. So that's why she's looking away from us. She's still absolutely fuming. But, as I said at the start of this video, the bread and butter, right, it's time for you to get down. You've said your hellos. The bread and butter is back. And I don't like to use cliches, but that's exactly what it is. And the reason that term is so relevant is because it's very difficult not to look a little bit further forward in the schedule to AC Milan in the San Siro European football on Tuesday night. My God, there's going to be 4,000 or 5,000 Geordies travelling over to Milan. And it is, you know, it's at the back of everyone's minds. And going into Saturday, we have to put that to the back of our minds. We really do. And I'm trying to do that as a fan. But it's even more important that the players do. Because I'm not looking at this game by any means as must win. I had that conversation with a friend of mine over text message. And I said, no, for me, it's not. What I see this game as massively is a springboard. And I know I said that at the start of this one. What I mean by that is because of this big week that we've got, because of the little rut that we found ourselves in at the start of the season. And when I say little, I do mean little rut. That's exactly what it is. We are just not used to losing games under Mr. Eddie Howe. This is the only ever time he's lost 3 in a row since he just taken over the job back in December 2020. That is how good the man has been since he's been in charge of this football club. He's been absolutely brilliant. And fair play to him. But with that, as I said on my last video, which rustled a couple of feathers because I think people saw the title of it about Eddie Howe maybe being under pressure and thought that was my opinion. It was by no means my opinion. It was a conversation about the noise I am seeing on social media. And as I said on that, by creating that success, that incredible job that he's done, comes a bit of unrest when you lose 3 football matches in a row. And it's not an ideal start for anyone. If this was Newcastle under Mike Ashley and we'd lost 3 games in a row at the start of the season, yes, we've had a difficult start. It's still not nice. It's not ideal. To not even get a draw in them 3 is never nice for any football club. But for me, I do believe that these conversations will be irrelevant in a couple of months. I've got full faith in Mr. Howe, and why would I not? But Saturday is the opportunity to really, really almost start the season again in a weird way after a 2-week break. And what I mean by that is there were so many positives to come from the games that we actually lost. Man City, Liverpool, Brighton not so much. We'll forget about that one. With a break so early in the season, it's like, right, let's go again. Let's get back to maybe some basics that we never saw at Brighton, that intensity, that aggression. And let's go out. A packed St. James Park, 5:30 kickoffs for me are always better atmospheres. And let's give ourselves that confidence boost. Because what I'm concerned about, if the players don't go into this with everything that they have with an eye on Tuesday, is to go into AC Milan in the Champions League, 4 defeats in a row off the belt in the league is not ideal. It's not. And then you look to that Sheffield United game a week on Sunday away. That's another big one in my opinion. It really, really is, because these are games that Newcastle United on paper, again, making this new reputation for ourselves as we should with some of the quality we have on our team. That's another game we should be looking to win. Now, Brentford for me is not an easy game by any means. And I really have concerns about how Brentford will play, and I have concerns about the sort of team that Brentford are. Now, Brentford are a team that are happy to not have the football. Their possession stats were some of the lowest in the league last season, and I have got no doubts about it. They will come to St. James's Park and they will happily let Tonali, Bruno, Joe Linton, all of the guys, God, that's my America trip rubbing off in the pre-season. All of our players have as much of the ball as we want. And I do think they will set up in a rigid 5-3-2. Thomas Frank likes to adopt that. He also likes to adopt a 4-3-3 that becomes basically a 4-5-1 and another adaptable formation similar to what we do. I think for this one he'll go 5-3-2, and he will put everyone in and he will say, right, you come at us. And Brentford are not a team that are going to play a very high line. Their defenders, I think, in this game will drop deep. And what concerns me, and this is going to be a big test of us on Saturday, is when teams have done this previously, it hasn't gone very well for us. What I was concerned about, what we didn't sign in the summer, was maybe that creative central midfielder to play through the lines when teams do come to St. James's Park and play a little bit more defensive. Brentford on Saturday are going to try and hit us on the counter. They've got pace in their front line, in Bueno, Weiser up front, and the new guy Shard that they've just signed, that they had on loan permanently for 20-odd million in the summer. They have pace. They have pace in their front three that can hurt us. And I think, you look at this Brentford team, they will sit in, and I'll share an image of what that sitting in looks like right now on the screen. This was a game at Man City last year, so obviously I'm not putting this in the category of Man City by any means, but as you can see on this picture, they will bank their players in and they will say, right, come and break through us. And that's the job that we have on our hands. And then when they regain the football, they will try and hit us on the counter-attack. And I think that because of the team that we are playing on Saturday, that eats into maybe team selection, who I would like to see, who I maybe would have given some different answers had it been a different side. We saw what happened when Aston Villa played a high line at St. James's on the opening game. It didn't work for them and we battered them. Brentford aren't going to do that. They really, really aren't. And it's a risky strategy from their side as a football club, because we saw what happened when Brentford came to St. James's last season. We absolutely destroyed them 5-1 that day. Brilliant day at the office. That was when we were really flying. Everything went well for us that day. One of their defenders made a mistake for Almiron to tap it in. It might be the goalkeeper, but it was one of them, not one thing could go wrong, really. And sometimes it goes like that, but sometimes it works. If the opposing team cannot break the system down that Brentford will adopt, they do manage to hit us on the counter, it can work quite effectively. So my big concerns going into this match are Brentford's pace up front. One thing we do not have in our back line is pace. Whether it's Fabian Schär, whether it's Botman, who I'm keeping my fingers crossed will be fit. They aren't crossed. Trippier's not the fastest anymore. And then on the left side, we'll talk about that in a second, you've got options there. I don't think any of the options, apart from our new recruit, our young recruit in Mr. Hall, offer any pace in that position at all. So that's one area. The other area, as I've already talked about, is whether we can break through the lines. So I'll talk about my defensive picks first. So defensively, based off everything I've just said about how Brentford will set up, not only do they have pace in their front three, they do play quite a high press when they don't have the ball in our attacking areas. So that might sound very contradicting in how they play, but their stats show that. And I've looked into it a little bit more, because Brentford aren't a team that I sit and watch much of. I'm not going to claim to. So who would I like to see at left back? It all depends how fit Hall is. It was very random that he was called up to play with England in the past week. Very, very random indeed. He's got to be reaching that match sharpness that maybe he didn't have when he came into the club. Matt Targett, for me, has not done enough since he's come back into the side. I was all for him coming into the side, but he's looked very out of it, and I know that only comes with game time, and you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. But based off the pace that Brentford possess and the bodies we will need in the final third from an attacking point of view from a full-back to really break between their defensive lines, I would like to see Hall come in for this. And that might be the easy go-to option when we've lost 3 matches in a row to bring the new guys in. I'm talking about this more from a tactical point of view. Secondly, I would probably go Dan Burn over Matt Targett, actually, because I don't think Howe is going to play Hall. I would love to see him too, just because Matt Targett has looked so off the pace. Dan Burn, yes, he doesn't have pace, but in the length of his body, he's always been quite good at managing that as best as he can by getting a long leg round and reading the game a little bit better as well. And obviously you get the height with Dan Burn. Of course you do. So that's who I would play at left back. Now, midfield, does Longstaff come in? We've talked about it now for almost a fortnight. For me, Longstaff does come in. And that's where Eddie Howe has to make a decision. Would I be happy with Tonali and Bruno and Longstaff? Yes, let's try it. Would I be happy with Tonali and Joe Linton? Yes, let's try it. Would I be happy with Longstaff, Bruno and Joe Linton? Of course I would, because that worked so well for us last season. So I'm not going to say who I would play as the other ones, because I think as long as you've got that defensive cover that Longstaff knows what he's doing, mopping things up in there, Eddie then has options to bring in. Maybe you do go with Bruno and Tonali because Joe Linton has looked a little bit short in the last 2 matches, in my opinion. So that's a headache for Eddie Howe, but for me, the main factor in that first 3 in midfield is that Longstaff should be given a go back in this team. I don't think Bruno and Tonali is going to suddenly start working overnight. Will it gel over time? From what we've seen this early in the season, and I say this early in inverted commas because it is, all these opinions are, I'm going to say no, because Tonali wants to bomb forward and have that free rein in and around the box. That's what Bruno likes to do, and I don't think either of them, you are getting 100% out of the play when you put them in as a holding midfielder. I really, really don't. You get them at 60%, you get them at 65%, and why would you want that? So that's something for Eddie to sort. Now, the front 3, I've been pushing for Harvey Barnes to come into this team. I have. £35 million, Eddie Howe is going to have to start using this guy. Because I think Brentford are going to play so deep, I would not go Harvey Barnes for this match. Harvey Barnes is a man who is always going to be on the shoulder, and he's going to be ideally suited to play in a team that plays quite a high line. So he can be making those runs, balls can come over the top, and he can basically get all over that and gobble it up. I don't think Barnes is the sort of player that's going to be suited to such a deep defensive line if Brentford play how I think they will. So who I would go with, and I don't think Eddie Howe is going to pick this formation at all, can I just stand on record? I would go with Isak on the left. Not someone who I want to see out there regular, but he possesses that type of trickery that you could argue we lost when we sold St. Maximin, that suits playing against a team that might sit in and play on the counter-attack, because they will happily allow us to pass the ball around in phases, pass the ball around in little triangles and little squares, and it's that individual brilliance that I think can sometimes break these teams down. Isak possesses that, we know he does, we've seen it. God, who could forget that ballerina dance he did against Everton last season? And I would bring Callum Wilson in through the middle. We need a poacher in matches like this, because the only way you are going to beat a team that plays defensively as I expect them to is by taking your chances. And that's what we need to start doing at St. James Park. And Callum Wilson knows where that goal is. He only needs a little, tiny little sniff. And then on the right-hand side, I would play Gordon. Gordon has played there. He's played there for Everton. He's played a free roaming role for England successfully in the tournament, in the Euro tournament that they won in the summer, where he got player of the tournament. Almiron needs to dip out of this team. We don't know whether he's fit. He picked up some sort of injury for Paraguay. I haven't followed it that much. But I just think he's the one who needs to come out. And I fully trust, because Brentford will try and hit us on the counter-attack with pace, I believe Gordon can support Trippier from a defensive point of view because he's full of legs. And I think Isak, if prompted correctly from Eddie Howe, which of course he would be, can also use that engine if he is to work hard. Joe Linton on the left, we know, brings a lot of cover in that area from that midfield 3, because Bruno will essentially take up more of the right-hand side, as we know. So that's what I would go with. I would go with the front 3 of Isak, Wilson and Gordon. Do I think Eddie Howe will play that? No, I do not. Do I think Eddie Howe will go possibly the same team as what he's been playing? Maybe. We don't know whether Eddie Howe's even considering bringing Longstaff in and taking one of the midfielders out. He's had faith in Bruno, Joe Linton and Tonali in all of the matches so far, so why would he suddenly go back on that just because of that Brighton performance that was essentially out of character across the board? I do think Newcastle United can win this game. I think we have players that can really hurt Brentford. No disrespect to them at all, because they are a very difficult team, and I think Thomas Frank's done a fantastic job there. But this is still a match on paper that Newcastle should be looking to win. We just have to, firstly, be clinical. We need to plug them gaps in the midfield, particularly with the playing style that Brentford will be. We need to be nice and tight in wide areas. Trippier and whoever plays at left back is going to have a good game. And Botman, if he is back in the team, which I'm hoping he is, I think we'll be back to our usual selves defensively. If Botman is not fit, that's when I'm a little bit worried. This is going to be an interesting one, because this might be the first team that we've seen come to St. James's Park this season and say, right, let's see what you've got. You have the football, there you go, have it, and we'll hit you on the counter-attack. We haven't seen that yet. We saw it a lot last season, and in a lot of matches we struggled with it. So let's see how the boys do. We know we've got strength in depth. We know AC Milan is around the corner, but we need to forget about that Champions League game, as hard as it is, because I've got my suitcase packed, I've got my pants hanging out on the line, me lucky Newcastle pants, ready to stick in my suitcase. Passport has been dusted off and checked 1,000,000 times, but we need to focus on the bread and butter. Does this have a feel of a very big game? Yes, but that's natural when you've lost 3 football matches in a row. Do I think we're going to win? Yes, I'm going to go for Newcastle on Saturday 2-0. I think we are going to turn this one around, and we are going to get back to winning ways and start off a huge week in the best way possible. Newcastle fans, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are your predictions for this one? What would your team selection be, which I think is one of the biggest questions coming into this? Are you going to Milan? Let me know down. I want to meet as many people for beers as possible. It sounds like there's only one place, Navigli Canal, I think it's called. There's only one place people are going for beers on the Monday and the Tuesday. So let me know. Monday I'm going to be floating around doing my own thing. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't, if you've stuck around this long, because there'll be a Brentford match vlog coming. Try and find us outside the stadium if you're there. And I'll see you on the next video for what will hopefully be a very happy return to what we used to, winning football matches at St. James's Park. Away the lads!